Hi there, my name is Melinda. I'm one of the expert teachers here at E2 Language. Today we're going to be doing listening, and this is a methods class. Methods meaning we're going to go through the methods. If you want something more fast moving, you would be advised to attend our advanced classes. So today we will be looking at the different methods. Okay, guys, if you'd like to chat with me, please use, on Zoom, please use the chat box, not the Q&A. If you use Q&A, probably I won't even see it. So use the chat. Can you pop something in now? Just tell me where you're from and say hello. Okay. Okay, lovely. We've got Amala here with us from Melbourne. We've got Sunati. Hi, Sunati. From Bangladesh. Lovely. Okay, who else have we got with us? We've got a few people on YouTube as well. So guys in YouTube, you can pop something into the chat too. Everyone's saying hello on YouTube, but where are you from, guys? Okay, we've got Janital from Sydney, Earl from the Philippines, Cheta from the USA, Nikki from the Philippines, Manmeet from India. Gosh, people from everywhere. Karina from Melbourne, Alexandra from Colombia. Hi, Mohammed. Sudip from Melbourne, Vrish from Canada. Gosh. And Latta from Queensland. I think there are a few of us from Queensland. I'm from the Gold Coast in Queensland, and there's a time difference between Queensland, where I am, and Melbourne, where E2 Language has its headquarters. Okay, we've got Christina, originally from Germany, currently living in Sydney. Guten Tag, wie geht es Ihnen? Okay, and we've got Kumari from India, Pradeep. Okie doke, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Oh, I see someone's popped something into the Q&A. Okay, so AMR, hello, but please use the chat. If you use Q&A on Zoom, probably I'm going to miss it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to disappear and become a little picture in the corner. Okay, there I am, up in the corner. Okay, and let me just grab a pointer and we can get started. Okay. Okay, Harpreet from India, welcome. Thank you for joining us again. And Sashi, welcome as well. And Ronak from Bangladesh. So we have at least two people from Bangladesh, and Ravi from Tassie, from Tasmania. Tasmania, for those of you who don't know, is a state in Australia, small island in the south. Very cold weather, I think. I come from up north where it's much warmer. Okay, so this is what we're doing today. We've got today's date, Friday, October 30th. We're going to be looking at methods. So we'll look at each of the 8 tasks. So here are all of the speaking tasks. We'll look at each of them and the methods you should be using. We'll do a bit of note-taking practice, a bit of vocab practice, and we'll look at each of the 8 listening tasks. And we should take, I'm aiming for 60, but maybe 70 minutes. Don't want to go over 70 minutes. Okay, let's see how we go. Oops, I've got the wrong pointer here. It should be better. Okay, that's working. Okay, so a quick bit of advertising here. Tutorials, one-on-one with the teacher. For some of you, this is part of your package. If it's part of your package, make sure you take it. Incredibly valuable. It's you and a teacher for 45 minutes. Incredibly helpful with the kind of questions that you might have about describe image or retell lecture, or the issues you might have with writing. The teacher can help you pinpoint what the issues are and help you to overcome those and to improve the way that you're approaching the questions to bring up your score, which is all important, as well as bring up your communication skills in English. Okay, also the mini mock test. If you're not quite sure what your level is, the mini mock test will help you to work that out. 20 different questions on the PTE. The mini mock test covers all of them. The whole test will take you, it says 2 hours, but it's between 1.5 and 2 hours. And you're going to get feedback on all 20 tasks. I'm telling you what you got right, what you got wrong. Also feedback from teachers on the speaking and on the writing, giving you a score and telling you what you can do to improve your score again. So very valuable also. And again, it's part of many of our packages. If it's part of your package, make sure you take it, guys. Take full advantage of what's there. Okay, so we're going to jump in with some vocab and then we'll start looking at the tasks in a few minutes, but we'll start with some vocab. And this is some of the vocab that you're going to hear in today's class. I'm going to give you 25 seconds to read through it. And if you have any questions about them, pop those questions into the chat. Okay, so 25 seconds to read through. Okay, any questions, pop them into the chat. I'll be able to answer a few of them. Notice this one here, styrofoam. If you go to McDonald's, you get your food in a styrofoam container. So it's a kind of packaging, kind of foam, styrofoam. Notice the spelling, might be useful later. Okay, so yes, Sonati. So it's a kind of packaging, often used for food to keep it warm. Rigid means stiff. The word litter, littered with, litter kind of means rubbish or trash. If it's littered with, it means that there's trash or things disorganized, placed in a disorganized way. Okay, and what else? Empathize. Where's empathize? Oh, empathize. Okay, empathize can be spelled with an S or a Z, both of them correct. This is American. I would normally spell it with an S. Empathize from the word empathy. If you have empathy, similar to sympathy, I understand, I feel for you. So if you hear something bad happening on the news, you might have empathy for the people involved. So it's kind of a fellow feeling. Kevin's asking, is circuitry related to circuit? Yes, it is. So circuitry is part of the machinery that makes things go around. So we have electrical circuitry, for example. One more. Tumkin is asking about the recording. This class, you can't watch the recording again, but this is a repeat of a class earlier in the week. So listening methods, different teacher earlier in the week, that one is recorded. This will be available on YouTube for those of you who have the YouTube address. Okay, so let's go on. I'm going to give you a little quiz. Okay, so you've got 35 seconds. Your job is to match this word to the meaning. Which is the meaning? Okay, 35 seconds. Off you go. So pop your answer into the chat. Okay, a few answers coming in. Lovely. Okay, Sai Nitesh, you got 90 for speaking in a recent test. Fabulous. And guys, that proves to all of you that it's possible to get 90. Absolutely, you can get 90. All right, let's have a look at the answers. So dispense, I often think of medicine, to dispense medicine, meaning to give out, to distribute. Rigid, meaning stiff or inflexible. Compressible, if something is compressible, we can push it together, we can make it smaller, we can press files on our computers sometimes, push them together, make them smaller. Stake can be a piece of wood. So you can use a stake in the garden. If you're growing tomatoes, you might stake it, you might wrap it around a stake. Stake can also be financial or emotional interest in something. So I have a stake in the company, for example. And coral is a form of life under the sea, and there's some argument about whether it's an animal or whether it's some kind of plant. It seems to be some kind of hybrid. It's a bit of both. Okay, so some of you did very well on that one, which is great. Okay, summarize spoken text. This one has a separate timer. So in the listening section, there is one timer for summarize spoken text. You get 10 minutes. If you get two summarize spoken texts, you get one timer for 10 minutes, next timer 10 minutes. When you finish the summarized spoken text, Then there is a timer for the rest of the listening test, and you need to manage your time within the rest. But for this, you have 10 minutes, should be enough in the test. Okay, so just a reminder that because there are so many people in the class, it's not possible for me to give individual feedback on your writing, but you're very welcome to send in some of your work for assessment, and a teacher will be more than happy to look at it for you, give you a score and comments that can help you. Okay, so it's going to look like this. So you're going to see the timer. It's going to start at 10 minutes because for every summarized spoken text, you have 10 minutes. If you only use 3 minutes, you finish in 3 minutes, that 7 minutes disappears. You can't use it anywhere else in the listening. So you might as well take the whole 10 minutes. This is showing me item 1 of 2. So in this test, I'm going to get 2 of them. This is the first one. You might have 1 out of 3. It's possible to get 3 of these in the test. Notice you've got a word count down here so you can see how many words you're writing. And you need to be writing between 50 and 70 words. You can see here if you've got enough words or if you're over. Usually when I do it, I'm over and then I edit it to bring it back under. Okay, let's look at the method. Okay, first thing is to listen. When you're listening, take notes. Don't take long notes, take short notes. The purpose is just to jog your memory. You should be listening and aiming to understand. So really focus on that meaning and just a few notes just to help your memory, not too many. And we're suggesting 6 to 8 keywords or key ideas, maximum, absolutely no more than that. 5 would be enough, that's fine, but somewhere around 6 is good. Okay, so the first thing you do is listening, and either you've understood the whole thing and you've got a few notes to help you, so then you're very well placed, or maybe you didn't understand it all. If you didn't understand it all you can do is do your best with what you did understand. Okay, so listening is the first part, and then you need to write. You get 10 minutes to do that, 50 to 70 words. Use the E2 language framework, which we'll look at in a moment. When you finish, you've got 10 minutes, use it. And the last minute or two, check the length. Is your word count correct between 50 and 70? What about the content? Are you happy? Grammar, vocab, spelling, punctuation, check it all. Don't throw away marks on something silly. So make sure that you pick up anything that you do know. Don't make a mistake with it. You'll get 2 or 3 of these in the test, and you should spend the entire 10 minutes on each one of them. This is the framework I mentioned earlier, and for those of you who are very familiar with us at E2, you'll know this is exactly the same as what we recommend for retail lecture. And the only difference is that with this one, instead of using all of them, for summarized spoken text, you might drop 1 or 2 of these sentences. Doesn't matter which ones. I'd keep the first one and drop 1 or 2 of the others, usually, not always, but be prepared to drop them. No problem if you do that. Okay, speaker was discussing, he mentioned, he described something, he talked about something else. Then he discussed this. Finally, he suggested that something. So you're using these structures, combining them with your notes, and you're prepared to drop 1 or 2 of them as you go along. Ooh, I just lost the verbs. What were the verbs? Do you know these verbs? You should know these verbs. Pop them in the chat. Does anyone know the shortcut for these verbs? Okay, so Florian's on top of it. DMD, TDS. Yep, lovely. And you can drop any one of those, Florian. That's fine. Okay. So yes, the speaker was discussing something. He mentioned something else. Then he said something else. Then he described this. Next, he talked about something else. He discussed something or other else. Finally, he suggested that. Use the structure. It's very simple. You don't need to use complex sentences in this task. Complex sentences, you will demonstrate them in your summarized written text, probably also in your essay. Here, keep it simple. Go for the listening, understanding, and then writing what you've just heard. Okay, so we're going to do just a bit of skill building with note taking. So you're going to listen to a short text, and I want you to write down 2 or 3 key ideas. So just listen, aim to understand, just a few notes. So this is a much shorter text than you will get normally in summarized spoken text. It's a little practice only for note taking. So you need pen and paper. In the test, I don't know if you can see my paper there, but I've got writing all over it. That's no good. So before I do any note taking in the test, make sure I've got clean paper and pen ready to go. I don't want to waste time looking for a clean page later. Okay, so you need pen and paper. And I want you to listen and take notes. I'll get rid of my picture there. So this is just a little practice and then we'll do one. Okay, so listening, let's go.
Oklahoma City started in the most unique way imaginable. Back on a spring day in 1889, the federal government held what they called a land run. They literally lined up the settlers along an imaginary line and they fired off a gun. And the settlers roared across the countryside and put down a stake. And wherever they put down that stake, that was their new home.
Okay, so did you get some notes? Let's have a look. So I can see there that a few of you are very familiar with our methods here. So Manish, Bhavik, Sunati, lovely. Okay, and Florian, of course. Well done, guys. Okay, so this was just taking a few notes. And what did we get here? So this is what we heard. And the things that stood out to me, Oklahoma City, 1889, land run, settlers, stake. Remember stake? I could use a stake for my tomatoes, for example. It can be a small pole. And new home. So possible notes, Oklahoma City, 1889, land run, settlers, stake, new home. Something like that may have been the notes that you took. Those of you who are familiar with DMD, TDS, hopefully you wrote that down, put your notes next to it. Makes it very easy when you start writing up your summarized spoken text. Okay, welcome Jyoti from New Zealand. Okay, thank you for joining us. How did you go with that one? Easy to understand, hard, easy? Put something into the chat. What do you think? Piece of cake? Cool, Jazz, lovely. Okay, Naveen says easy. Fantastic, guys. Okay, so we're going to do one now. This time I'm going to give you, I think it's 3 minutes on the timer. So I want you to listen and take notes. And then I'll give you a little bit of time to just start writing up your notes. Okay, so I'll get rid of my picture there. Okay, so this is the structure. So this is a bit of a cheat. You can use this as you start writing up. So you're going to have 3 minutes, listen and take notes. Okay, Sunati is saying, I didn't understand the first line of the listening. That's going to happen to you, Sunati. And if it happens, it's kind of just bad luck. You need to work with the other bits that you did understand. So accept it's going to happen sometimes, Sunati. Just work with the rest. Okay, Lata's saying that's easy. Okay, now I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I've got 2 sound files. I shouldn't have 2 sound files. Let's see what happens. Okay, so have you got pen and paper? Are you ready?
So the idea for this project all started when a few months earlier, a couple of my teammates took a trip to Central America and saw beaches littered with styrofoam or expanded polystyrene foam. And when they came back and told us about it, we really started thinking about the ways in which we see styrofoam every day. Get a new flat screen TV, you end up with a block of styrofoam bigger than the TV itself. Drink a cup of coffee, well, those styrofoam coffee cups are sure gonna add up. And where do all these items go after their one-time use? Since there aren't any good existing solutions for used styrofoam, almost all of them end up right in the landfill or the oceans and beaches, taking over 500 years to degrade. And in fact, every year, the US alone produces over 2 billion pounds of styrofoam, filling up a staggering 25% of landfills. So why do we have these ghost accumulations of styrofoam waste? Why can't we just recycle them like many plastics? Well, simply put, recycled polystyrene is too expensive and potentially contaminated, so there is very little market demand for styrofoam that has to be recycled. And as a result, styrofoam is considered a non-renewable material because it is neither feasible nor viable to recycle polystyrene.
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of time to write that up. If anybody wants to put their notes into the chat, you can do that now too. Okay, so put your notes in or begin writing up the sentences using the structure you see on the screen. Nice, Tamki. Good notes. Good, Olaladi. Nice. Okay, so I can see that a couple of people haven't caught all of the information, and that's fine. Let's just go back a page. Haven't caught all of the information, that's fine. Some of you have got a lot of it, which is great. So I'll just have a look at some of the things in the chat on Zoom. So Harpreet's asking, how do you catch the main topic, particularly if it's short? Harpreet, all you can do is concentrate, make sure you do lots and lots of listening practice. If you're not familiar with it, TED.com is a very useful website, TED.com. Okay, Ajiz wrote, the speaker was discussing wastage. Beautiful, that's fine. Tamkeen took notes, Central America, beaches, styrofoam, landfill. Okay, that's good as well. And 25%. Sunati got USA TV plastic. Sunati, I'm suspecting you didn't quite understand the whole thing, but you've got enough there to start writing something up. So if that's, and I'm not sure, but if that was all that you really caught, work with that, do your best with that, aim to get over 50 words, under 70. You might lose a little bit on the content, so that'll be towards your listening mark. Maximize your mark for this. Do the best with whatever you heard. And meantime, before your test, make sure you're going to TED.com. It's a website with thousands of videos that you can listen to. Under the video is a button that says transcript. You can read and listen together. Okay, Nikki's got Central America, 25%, oceans, beaches, styrofoam, recycle project, 2 billion landfill. Perfect, Nikki. Great notes. Okay. Okay, Bhavik had a technical problem. That's not good. That shouldn't happen in the test. Okay, what else have we got? Yep, some nice notes there. Oh, okay. Some people have taken a lot of notes. Be careful of that because you need to maximize the listening and the concentration, minimize your note-taking a little bit just to help your memory. Okay, so nice work, guys. Okay, let's go on. Oops, I've gone too far. Anyway, so these are the notes that you may have taken. Just some of the things highlighted here. Styrofoam, that's the word that we saw earlier, meaning packaging. They were talking about styrofoam around televisions. Styrofoam bigger than the TV. It's coffee cups are styrofoam. It's used in landfills. It ends up in the ocean. 25% of landfills are styrofoam. Recycled polystyrene, similar or same product. It's expensive to recycle and it contaminates things. Feasible, it's not feasible, nor is it viable to recycle polystyrene. Okay, so there's some of the things you may have picked up. If you didn't understand the whole thing, all you can do is work with whatever you did understand. Don't give up on it, maximize your marks for it. Okay, so something you might have started with notes, and this is how I would do it. I would write a sentence before I start writing the next one. I kind of go back and check it, gather my thoughts, keep writing, and the whole time I'm going back, and if I see a typing mistake or a spelling mistake or anything, I'll fix it as I'm going through. So here we've got the speaker was discussing styrofoam. Now that's a tough one. Maybe you know the meaning of the word, but how do you spell it? So one approach is to use a synonym a different way. The speaker was discussing plastic packaging, for example. He mentioned using in, okay, there's something wrong here, packaging and coffee cups. He talked about how end up in our landfill and ocean. That's a good sentence for your notes or for when you begin to draft it, and later you're going to go back and check your grammar, check your spelling. Okay, and that's an ongoing process. Okay, so here we've got the speaker was discussing foam packaging. Okay, I couldn't spell styrofoam. I knew the meaning. I used a synonym, foam packaging. beautiful. I'm not going to lose marks for that. I would have lost marks for the first one because I wasn't sure of the spelling. Okay, so we draft it. We're still fixing, changing things up. And I'll give you a moment to read through this on your own. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences there. So one of those model sentences was dropped. I'll give you a moment to read through that on your own. Lovely, Chet, and that's really nice. A couple of very small mistakes with a final S, I think it was, and with an article with a D, but that's almost 90 out of 90. It's very close. Okay, Amala, that's not bad. Okay, so the beginning is very strong. You talk about coffees, cups, it would just be coffee cups, C-O-F-F-E cups. Okay, so the beginning is quite strong there. Who else have we got? Naveen. Okay, you've got notes there, Naveen. Okay. Ganesh, what's Ganesh got? The speaker was discussing pollution caused by styrofoam. Lovely. He mentioned that Central American beaches, we need the adjective to describe the beach. He mentioned that Central American beaches are filled with styrofoam, which is bigger in size than a standard TV. He then talked about how most of the styrofoam ends up in landfills that eventually leads to pollution. Next, he discussed that styrofoam takes 500 years to recycle and it is costly to recycle. He finally suggested that styrofoam is a non-recyclable material. Okay, so for that one, Ganesh, you would get full marks for the listening. You've captured all of the information on the writing side of it because it also contributes to your writing mark. You're going to lose a little bit there sometimes for grammar. But just for little things, the meaning is being communicated quite clearly. So very nice. Okay, guys, so nice work on that. And the take home here is you've got 10 minutes, use it all, no advantage in finishing early. Check your work. If you don't understand all of the listening, just do your best with whatever you did understand. And make sure you check so you're not making silly mistakes. The mistakes you make are genuine, you're not sure kind of mistakes. Okay, I'm not going to give you more time to do that. We'll keep moving on and you can finish that after class if that's what you would like to do, that's fine. Okay, so let's keep moving. And so this part of the test, you've got 10 minutes for every summarized spoken text. As soon as we finish this, so now we're out of the summarized spoken text, once you're out of it, you get a separate timer, and that's for the rest of the listening section. Now the marking for this, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So it's worth 10 marks. So content, is it a good summary? Length, is it between 50 and 70 words? You've got the word counter on the screen in the test. Make sure that you're over 50, under 70. Grammar, use correct grammar as much as you can. No silly mistakes. Vocab, appropriate words, communicate clearly. And if you wrote down, you were listening, you wrote down exactly what you heard, a few phrases, no problem, that's okay. You can use the exact words of the text if you want to. Spelling, spell each word correctly and you get the full 2 marks. 1 mistake, 1 mark. Look at this, it's really tough. 1 mistake, only 1 mark. 2 mistakes or more, you get 0 for spelling. So if you're a fairly strong speller, make sure you pick up those marks. Don't throw them away. If you're a weak speller, you're going to have to accept you'll probably lose the 2 marks. If you're a weak speller, pick up the marks somewhere else. What else can you do to compensate so you can lift your mark? Okay, moving on. Multiple choice, multiple answers. Now this is a scary one. And the reason this is scary is negative marking, right guys? What does negative marking mean? Okay, so have a look at this. We've got time remaining, 22 minutes and 52 seconds, item 1 of 15. So in this test, we're going to have 15 questions, all the different kinds of questions, not just 15 multiple choice, multiple answer, usually 2 or 3 of most of the questions. This is the first one. I've got 22 minutes left. Notice this. If you see squares in front of options, make sure that your brain immediately says, multiple answer. Usually you see circles here. Circles always means a single answer. But as soon as you see squares, you've got multiple answers and you've got negative marking. So use those squares as a bit of a prompt to remember. Okay, what's the method? Read the prompt carefully. So the prompt is the first line here, the question. Which of the following do not correctly link materials and their rationale for use in the construction of skyscrapers? We're not going to do this one, just an example, but read the prompt. Okay, notice any keywords. Okay, so it's something about construction of skyscrapers, and I need to be listening for something that doesn't correctly link materials and their rationale. Okay, that's a tough one. All right, then we need to listen carefully. Take notes in this one. Again, just to help jog your memory, to help you to focus. Thing you should not do is do not read. Don't try reading these and listening together. You cannot do it. So read this, then the listening begins. When you're listening, listen and a few notes. That's it. Do not try and read. Cannot do it. Okay. And then when the listening finishes, that's the time for you to come back and read more carefully. And you're going to eliminate incorrect options. So you might be able to say 1, no, 2, no, 3, not sure, 4, not sure, 5, yeah, not sure, 6, not 6. So if you can eliminate them, just cross them off. So now you're left with, 1, 2, 3. Now we're left with 3. 2 of them will be correct, maybe 3. So now you can read more carefully, think a little bit about them, and choose your answers. And don't guess. Negative marking, don't guess. Okay, so you'll get 2 or 3 of these in the test. You should spend about a minute and a half. Okay, negative scoring, what does it mean? So if, for example, A and B are correct, you choose A and B. You've got 1 mark, 2 mark, or 2 points, 1 point, 2 points. You choose A. I'm sure it's A. I think it's C as well. You get 1 mark for A. You get -1 for C. Now you've got 0. So it's better to just say, I'm sure of A. I'm not sure about the rest. I'll just choose A. You will get the point for that. 2 wrong answers, 0. So 0 is the least, the worst mark you can get. If you do nothing, you get 0. So if you've got no idea, click something, next, move on. So just, this is the only situation in which you should guess. No idea, guess 1 answer, move on. Okay, if you do something like this, so A and B are correct, you've got 2 points, -1 point, now you've got 1 point. So be very, very careful with negative scoring. Only put in an answer if you're confident, except in this situation where you've got no idea. Guess, maybe you'll be okay. Okay, so we're going to do one. And the first thing you're going to do is read across the sentence. Once the listening begins, you're not going to be reading anymore. Taking notes, that's it. Get your pen and paper ready. Okay, so you've got 7 seconds. That's your time to read this. If you've got a little bit more time, the average man can throw a ball. Men's gap readings, you might read a little bit more, but only 7 seconds. Make sure you've got pen and paper. Let's go. Take notes. You've probably heard it said that when it comes to their psychology, it's almost as if men are from Mars and women are from Venus. But how different are men and women really? To find out, let's start by looking at something on which men and women really do differ and plotting some psychological gender differences on the same scale. One thing men and women do really differ on is how far they can throw a ball. So if we look at the data for men, we see what is called a normal distribution curve. A few men can throw a ball really far and a few men not far at all, but most are kind of average distance. And women share the same distribution as well, but actually there's quite a big difference. In fact, the average man can throw a ball further than about 98% of all women. So now let's look at what some psychological gender differences look like on the same standardized scale. Any psychologist will tell you that men are better at spatial awareness than women, so things like map reading, for example. And it's true, but let's have a look at the size of this difference. It's tiny. In fact, the average woman is better than 33% of all men, and of course, if that was 50%, then the two genders would be exactly equal. So here's the next one. Any psychologist will tell you that women are better with language and grammar than men. Again, yes, women are better on average, but 33% of men are better than the average woman, and again, if it was 50%, that would represent complete gender equality. 1 minute to answer. Okay, how did you go? Let's have a look at some of the things being put in here. Okay, we've got A and C, E and C, A and B, A, D, E, E, A, D, A, E, A, D, E, B, D, E. No one's going for C, but apart from that, there's, oh no, we've got a C, we've got an A, C, E. Bit of a spread. I want AC, yep, AC. A couple of people going for AC. Okay. So what was actually said? And what we know about this is if we have no idea, it's multiple choice, multiple answer, negative marking, no idea, guess one, move on. If you're confident with one, choose it. Confident with 2 or 3, choose them. But if you're confident with one and not sure about another one, only choose one. It's the safest strategy. Okay, so the answers. We're going to go through them one by one. First one, the average man can throw a ball further than most women. In fact, the average man can throw a ball further than about 98% of all women. That one looks pretty good to me. I think most of you had that. Next one, on the whole, men's map reading skills are far superior to women's. This is a common thing that we hear a lot. Oh, men are much better at reading maps than women. Is it true? Any psychologist will tell you that men are better at spatial awareness than women. So things like map reading, for example. And it's true, but, did you hear the but? But let's have a look at the size of this difference. It's tiny. Far superior to women's? The difference is tiny? That's not quite right, is it? That doesn't quite work. Okay, we've got in general, men have slightly better spatial awareness than women. Men are better at spatial awareness. This difference, it's tiny. Yep, that's true. It's kind of the opposite of this one, really, isn't it? Then we have, on average, women outperform men on language tasks. Women are better with language and grammar than men. Women are better on average. It's true. Okay, now at this point, a couple of things are happening. One of them is I've already chosen 3 correct answers. I know there are not going to be 4. So if I'm happy with these, I don't even need to read this. I can just go next. And you want to keep moving in this test. Don't spend any more time on any question than you need to, particularly in the listening and the reading. Keep it moving. Okay. So in this case, we have 3 correct answers. What's the scoring? And correct answers are A, C, and D. Most of you missed the C, but if you said A and D, that's still okay because you've got 2 out of 3. Better to do that than to risk one that you're not sure of. One thing I'm interested in is how many of you were listening and reading at the same time. Okay, if you were, smack on the fingers, very naughty. Don't do it. It's really, really hard to do. You can't fully concentrate on either your reading or your listening. You will miss things in the listening. Don't read and listen. Okay, so read and take notes. All right, so the scoring, very simple. 3 were correct, you get 3. If 2 were correct, you could get 2 marks. So at the moment, we're on 13. So a score of 13 is possible. Okay, keep it moving, fill in the blanks. Okay, so it's going to look like this. You'll see how much time you've got left. This is item 4 of 15. And I said before that you've got about a minute and a half. And this is on average per task. So some of the listenings already are 90 seconds. They're already a minute and a half. So you don't want to spend much more than an extra minute on any questions. Some of the questions are quite short and simple. So those ones, do it simply, do it quickly. If you know the answer, choose it, move on. Know the answer, choose, move on. So on average, you have 1.5 minutes, but some of the listenings are 1.5 minutes. What it means is you can't spend 3 minutes thinking about something. Minute maximum on some of those with a long audio. Keep it moving. Okay. Oops. Lost the plot. Here we go. Okay. So we have a text. This one's a dialogue. And we've got some missing words. Your job is to listen, type the missing word in each blank. Now, I'm quite strong at typing, but if I make a mistake, if I do this and I type my answers in directly, I make a mistake, it's natural to go and fix the mistake, and then I'm not really listening anymore and I lose a bit of it, and I'm sort of guessing and trying to catch up. So even as a strong typist, strong on the keyboard, I would prefer to handwrite it, and then later when it's finished, I'll go and type the answers in. I know that some of you like to type it at the time. If you're strong and you don't make mistakes, okay. But for most people, I would strongly recommend against it. So listen, write your answers by hand, and then type them in at the end is my suggestion. Okay, so the method. Notice any keywords. You've got 7 seconds, so you could just read the first sentence. Professor, thanks for making time to come and see me. A couple of things I need to discuss about your something in the course, your progress, your marks, your something. 7 seconds is gone. Audio will begin. So you can only just get a very quick idea. It's between a professor and a student, perhaps. Okay, whatever you can pick up in 7 seconds. After that time, only listening. You can take notes if you want to. Sorry. After that, you're just listening. Now, what am I saying? I apologize. In this one, because you're reading the exact same words, you should be reading, my apologies. You should be reading very carefully, following along. You put the cursor here, you follow along as the audio is going and write down the missing words. Okay, read, listen, and write. So this task is the exception. You can listen and read, and you need to. Okay, write by hand first, type in later. Scoring, correct answer, 1 point. Get 2 or 3 of these in the test. Okay, so we're going to do them. This time you need to be ready, and I would suggest that you write by hand. Okay, I'll get rid of my picture and we'll start. Okay, 7 seconds, then the audio begins.
The first time I cried underwater was in 2008, the island of Curacao, way down in the southern Caribbean. It's beautiful there. I was studying these corals for my PhD, and after days and days of diving on the same reef, I had gotten to know them as individuals. I'd made friends with the coral colonies. Totally normal thing to do. Then Hurricane Omar smashed them apart and ripped off their skin, leaving little bits of wounded tissue that would have a hard time healing, and big patches of dead skeleton that would get overgrown by algae. When I saw this damage for the first time, stretching all the way down the reef, I sunk onto the sand in my scuba gear and I cried.
Okay, so someone's asked, can we play the recording? Oh, a few moments, sorry. Okay, and what you probably found is that you don't actually need the full minute for this one. You can probably do it more quickly. A few questions. Anna is asking, can we replay the recording? No, every recording in the entire test, only one time. Joanna is asking, can we correct something that we type? Yes, you can. If you make a typo, no problem, you can fix it. Okay, and you should be checking your typing. I can see a few typos in the answers here, just flicking through the answers quickly. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look at those answers. Okay, underwater. Studying, I was studying these corals. Sometimes you're going to need to fix the grammar yourself. Maybe you weren't quite sure what you heard, but later you can read, I was studied. Doesn't make sense. I was studied. No, must have been, I was studying. So anything that you don't quite catch with the listening, check the grammar just to be sure. Okay, same reef. Totally a normal thing to do. Would have a hard time healing meaning to get better. When I saw this damage for the first time, stretching, did you get the T in stretching? I noticed a few people in the chat didn't get it. And last one, I sunk onto the sand in my scuba gear and I cried. Okay, looking good, Vina. Very nice. Okay, nice work, guys. Let's keep going. There were 7 blanks. You get 7 points for that. So we're up to 20 points at the moment. Some nice answers too on YouTube. Lovely, guys. Well done. Okay, highlight correct summary. Notice the circles. One answer is correct. Okay, so this one, we've got time remaining. This is item 7 of 15. We're halfway through the test. Again, we need to notice keywords and ideas. So very short time. You can't possibly read the whole thing. So just read a little, get an idea of what it's about. Take notes while you're listening. Okay, after the listening has finished, that's the time to go through and read carefully. Do not read and listen. Okay, so then you use your memory and any notes you've taken and try and work out the correct answer. Eliminate anything that's incorrect. You might be able to say immediately, number 1, no, that's not right. So now you're left with 3. Can you narrow it down? Can you cross off another one? Okay, or do you need to guess between the 3 or choose the one? I'm most confident with this one. And most of the questions in the listening, you can guess. You cannot guess in highlight incorrect word because it's negative marking. You cannot guess in multiple choice, multiple answer because it's negative marking. Everything else, if you don't know, guess. Okay, scoring 1 point for each correct selection. You get 2 or 3 of these. Okay, so we're going to do it. You want pen and paper. You're going to listen and take notes. You're not going to read while you're listening. Okay. So 10 seconds to read whatever you can, then stop reading, focus on listening, a few notes. Off we go.
There's a new field in brain science, social neuroscience. This studies the circuitry in two people's brains that activates while they interact. And the new thinking about compassion from social neuroscience is that our default wiring is to help. That's to say, if we attend to the other person, we automatically empathize, we automatically feel with them. There are these newly identified neurons, mirror neurons, that act like a neuro Wi-Fi, activating in our brain exactly the areas activated in theirs. We feel with automatically. And if that person is in need, if that person's suffering, we're automatically prepared to help. At least that's the argument. But then the question is, why don't we? And I think this speaks to a spectrum that goes from, complete self-absorption to noticing, to empathy, and to compassion. And the simple fact is, if we're focused on ourselves, if we're preoccupied, as we so often are throughout the day, we don't really fully notice the other. And this difference between the self and the other focus can be very subtle.
Okay, how did you go? So I've got a few people putting answers in. We've got lots of B's, C, D, B, 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 A, B, 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 C, B, 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 A, D, D. Okay, so B is the most popular answer. Let's have a look. Okay, and the correct answer is B. Now, what I was able to do immediately was say, not A, not C. Is it B? Is it D? I read them both again. It's B. Okay. And again, if you're not sure, that's the best strategy. So if you know it's not this or this, that leaves 2. And if you're going to guess, it's 50-50. But perhaps in doing that, or hopefully in doing that, you can choose the best answer. Okay, so if you're listening and taking just a few notes, that's helping you to focus. So you've understood it, then you're going back and checking which one of these options is closest to your understanding of the text. Okay, so 1 for that. Did you get it right? Did you not get it right? So 21 points at the moment. Okay, multiple choice, choose single answer. Okay, so it's going to look like this. You've got the circles, we've got the prompt here. So this is the question we're listening for. Here are the options. And sometimes these are quite short. You may have time to read them all before the sound begins. Okay, but once the sound begins, stop reading. Okay, so we've got 18 minutes left in our test. It's number 7 of 15. Method. So read the prompt carefully. You've got time to do that. Notice any key words. If you have time, go through them. Take notes while you're listening. Usually this is quite a short text, but take notes. And again, eliminate any incorrect options. If you know 3 and 4 are wrong, that leaves you 1 or 2. Read them again, think, decide, choose, next. And so we're selecting the one closest to our understanding. Okay, so again, 1 point for this. Okay, so we're going to do that. You're ready. Have pen and paper ready. It might be a very short text, but it's still something that's going to help you to focus. Okay, 5 seconds to read that. Quickly read as much of that as you can and then stop when the audio begins.
No one would mistake these elephants as being relaxed. They're obviously very concerned about something. What are they concerned about? It turns out that if you record the voices of tourists and you play that recording from a speaker hidden in the bushes, elephants will ignore it because tourists never bother elephants. But if you record the voices of herders who carry spears and often hurt elephants in confrontations at waterholes, the elephants will bunch up and run away from the hidden speaker. Not only do elephants know that there are humans, they know that there are different kinds of humans, and some are okay and some are dangerous.
I think everyone's got this one. So let's have a look. Okay, correct answer D. So in this case, I could immediately rule out B and C. So I knew it wasn't B, wasn't C, wasn't E. So I go back, is it A or is it D? And then of those two, I would choose D. I think it's the stronger answer. Okay. And I think almost everyone got that. I think it said, so the last one, view water holes as danger zones. So I think it specifically said that they do not. I can't find it in the text. Okay. Okay, so there are confrontations at water holes between the elephants and the herders. Okay. But it doesn't tell us that the elephant's perception or the elephant's point of view is that water holes are dangerous. Okay, 22 points so far. Select missing word. Okay, this is the one where we're going to listen to an audio and the last 1, 2 or 3 words are cut. And so you need to be tuned. So this is one where you need to be looking in the test. You're going to be looking at the clock because you want to know when the words are going to start, when they're going to come, so you can listen for any grammar or meaning to get an idea. So watch the clock carefully in this one. Also up here in this particular question, it's going to tell you what the topic is. This is about the environment. It's about cars, technology, whatever it is, it's going to say it up here. And that helps your brain to kind of get an idea of the vocab, what you're going to expect to hear, and that helps you to listen more easily. Okay. So this one's careful listening and watching the clock to see when the end is coming. So read the instructions to find the topic. It's going to be written up here. Speed read the answer options. You've got 7 seconds, sometimes very short, sometimes a bit longer, but usually 1 to 3 words for each option. Once the listening begins, you're going to focus on the meaning. Okay, notice the recording timer. So watch that timer to see when the end is coming. Okay, select the best answer immediately. Okay, either you know it or you don't know it. If you don't know, guess, next. Keep moving. Okay, 1 point again for this one. You get 2 or 3 of these in the test. Okay. So 7 seconds to prepare. Off we go. Oh, let me get rid of my picture. There we go. Off we go. Here's a startling fact. In the 45 years since the introduction of the automatic teller machine, those vending machines that dispense cash, the number of human bank tellers employed in Germany has roughly doubled from 250,000 to 500,000. 250,000 in 1970 to about 500,000 today, with 100,000 added since the year 2000. This poses a paradox. Our machines increasingly do our work for us. Why doesn't this make our labour force? Okay, so a number of different answers coming in here, which is interesting. Okay, and for this one, you really needed to understand the meaning. Did you remember at the beginning, did you remember to check up the top to see what it's generally going to be about? Did you take a few seconds just to run through these? Okay, and what's the answer? Most of you got it in the end, but there was a bit of variation there, which is interesting. So it's a bit of a tough one. I feel like a drum roll here. Correct answer, redundant. Okay, why doesn't this make our labour force redundant? Okay, so we've got 45 years since ATMs, automatic teller machines, were introduced. They're vending machines, dispense cash. So a bit of background, 250,000 in 1970 to 500,000 today, 100,000 added just since the year 2000. This poses a paradox. So we've got machines taking over from bank tellers. This poses a paradox. Our machines increasingly do our work for us, but why doesn't this make our labour force redundant? Okay, so the number of human bank tellers has been increasing. Why? We've got automatic teller machines. Why are we getting more people with more jobs? There's a paradox. Why isn't our labour force redundant? So it's in the meaning here. Okay, so got it right. 1 point for that one. Okay, highlight incorrect words. Negative marking on this one. So we've got 8 minutes left in our test. Always need to be aware of that in the listening and reading. Method, move your cursor to the first word. Speed read the first sentence. Listen, read, click. So what you're listening for is, I'm hearing one thing, but I'm reading something different. So this is one where you do listen and read. Okay, so if a word is different, you hear something, read something different, click. If you make a mistake, you can unclick. Do not guess, negative marking, so it'll cost you dearly if you get it wrong. So 1 point for a correct answer, negative 1 point for an incorrect answer. However, the worst you can do is 0. Okay, you get 2 or 3 of these in the test. Okay, so for this one, in the test, you'd need to have, you put your cursor, your mouse cursor at the beginning. Today, maybe you could put your finger at the start and listen and go across as you listen. Okay, off we go. So 10 seconds, quickly read the first line, take a breath, off we go.
Powering soft, wearable electronics with a long-lasting source of energy remains a big challenge. Supercapacitors could potentially fill this role. They meet the power requirements and can rapidly charge and discharge many times. But most supercapacitors are rigid, and the compressible supercapacitors developed so far have run into roadblocks.
Okay, looking good, most of you. So the answers, source of energy remains a big challenge. Supercapacitors could potentially fill this role. Rapidly charge and discharge many times. Okay, so there were 3 of them there. Now, if you've clicked something else, you've got minus. So if you've got these 3 correct, you've got 3 points. If you've got these 3 and another one, you've got 2 points because you've got 3 right and 1 wrong. Okay, so negative marking. So in the test, only choose a word if you're confident. Okay, and roadblocks, of course. Okay, so most of you did quite well on that one. There were 4 incorrect words. So now we're up to possible score of 27. Put your scores in just before we go to the last, before we go on. So what's your score at the moment out of 27? So pop them into the chat. 24 out of 27, lovely. 24, 25, wow, superheroes, guys, really nice. Okay, that bodes well for the test. Bodes well, it suggests things in the future will be good. Bodes well, B-O-D-E-S, bodes well. Nice, guys, lovely scores. Okay, last one, right from dictation. We're going to do 3 of these. Okay, so the method, pay attention, obviously. Focus on the meaning. Listen for phrases, not words. If you're listening for words, you'd be listening for 12 different things. If you're listening for phrases, then it's just 2 groups of words or 3 groups of words. How many phrases or groups of meaning? So listen for those groups of meaning. Okay, when you're listening to someone speaking, you're not actually listening to every individual word. You're listening to groups of words. Do that for this task. Okay, so listen for the phrases, not the words. Listen and then write. So finish the listening and then start writing. Okay, check your spelling. Scoring 1 point for each correct word. You do actually lose a little bit for incorrect words. Okay, and you get 3 or 4 of these in the test. Okay, we're going to do 3 of them. Okay, so you're going to listen and then write what you hear. Okay, so number 1, off we go. So you'll have a minute after it finishes. You've got 1 minute. Off you go.
The technical components of the course were time-consuming.
Okay, a few people have got it. Olalade got the first one. Amala got it. Nikki was close. Okay, let's do the second one, number 2. Yes, Anna, I believe it's just you. I think everyone else is fine. I'm not sure. There must be an issue with your sound, Anna, unfortunately. Number 2.
The course takes 1 year full-time and 2 years part-time.
Okay, and last one.
You will need to write 2 essays of 1,000 words each.
Lovely path on YouTube. Nice. Okay, so the question is, did you get the right word? Did you get the right spelling of the right word? You need the right word and the right spelling. So let's have a look at those. Okay, and the most common mistake that I've seen is final S, components of the course. 2 years part-time, takes 1,000 words. That's the most common error I've seen in your answers. Okay, there's a few spelling mistakes, a few incorrect words. So I'll give you a moment to read through. Okay, so why have I written the number of words there? The number of words, basically, if you get the correct word, you get 1 point for it. So 9 words, 9 points is possible. If you got 1 word wrong, you're going to get 8 points. So you're going to lose the incorrect word. You'll also lose it a little bit. You got 8 correct, and the incorrect word, you will lose a little bit for that. The marking for this is a little bit mysterious. We have a good relationship with Pearson. We've asked them the question, and we're kind of piecing together information and reading between the lines. Now, I know some people claim, some teachers will claim they know exactly how it's marked. They do not know. This is Pearson proprietary information. They don't share this with anyone, but reading through the lines, what we've worked out is correct word, you get a point. Incorrect word, you lose a little bit, not a whole point, but you lose a little bit. And that stops you if you didn't know the word, you don't know how to spell a word like consuming, you don't know how to spell it, put 4 options. Hey, you got 1 right, you'll get the point. No, if you put other options, you're going to lose something for them. So just put the word 1 time, best guess with spelling. And also the other thing is, as far as we know, the word order is not so important. Obviously, if you know the correct order, put them in the correct order. That's the safe way to do it. but we believe that there is no penalty for the wrong order. So if you're not sure of the order, put down something that could possibly be right. You might be okay. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. 59 points is possible. How did you go? Harpreet has a question. If I write an extra word in dictation, does it reduce the marks? Yes, it does, Harpreet, but we're not sure by how much. So it's safer not to do it. You will lose something for it, but we're not sure how much. I don't think it's a great deal. Shashank's asking, can a number be a digit or a word? Yes, it's correct to write it either way. Any number over 10, you can write TEN or the number 10. Any number under 10, the convention is to write the word in full. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would write all of those as the word. Anything else, it's optional. The other thing is, in these ones here, we had a few words that are sometimes hyphenated. So full time can be 2 words, or it can have that little line, a hyphen in the middle. You won't be penalised for anything like that. Okay, just looking at your questions, we are going to finish in a moment. So any questions, pop them into the chat. Okay, so Sapir wrote, you need 2 essays with 1K words. 1K, I don't think you'll get the mark for that, Sapir. To me, that's a very risky thing to do. Better to write the number 1000 or the word 1000. 1K is fine for notes. We all know what it means, but has it been programmed into the algorithm? I don't know. It's not really a convention yet in English to do that. I think that is risky. Do we need a comma? No. Punctuation is not marked. Capital letters don't matter. Comma, full stop don't matter. You're not going to be scored on those. And again, I would put them in because I've been doing it for 100 years and I'm used to doing it and it's safer, but in fact, they're not scored. So don't worry about comma, no problem. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. You don't seem to have many questions. So very roughly today, there were 59 points to be had. If you got 52 or more, you're scoring around about 79. And notice the word roughly. This is not how it's scored exactly in the test, but it's an indication for you. So very roughly, 52, you're on track for about 79. 43, you're on track for about 65. And if you got 33, you're on track for about 50. And all of those scores could be fine depending what you're going for, guys. Okay, we won't go through these today. Okay, do we have any last minute questions? No, Shrikant, apologies. Punctuation, no problem. Harpreet's asking how to write numbers in dictation, the digit one or the word one. Okay, Harpreet, so if a number is under 10, write it in full. So for number 9, I would write N-I-N-E. But any 10 or over, you choose. You can go either way. Write the number. So if there are 2 digits, so 10, 11, 12, 117, 7 million, you can write them as numbers or words. That's fine. So anything under 10, Harpreet, write the word. Okay. Suniti's asking, do I need to write the dictation sentence in a grammatical way? Yes and no. It needs to be grammatical in the sense that if there was an S on the end of a word, you need to have that S on the end of the word. You don't have the S, you lost the point. You don't get that point for that one. So you must have, the grammar must be correct in that sense. Nikki's put in the framework for someone. The speaker was discussing, so it's DMD. So he was discussing, we're talking about summarized spoken text, guys. And someone's asking about the framework. DMD, TDS. D was discussing, M mentioned, the second D was described, DMD, T talked about TDS. DMD, TDS. So mentioned at the end, we've got DMD, T talked about, D discussed again, and S suggested. Okay. And what we're suggesting, Sunati, if you attended some of our other classes, you'd realise the DMD TDS, each of those stands for a verb. You write down DMD TDS, you put your notes next to it. In the summarised spoken text, you've got plenty of time. In the retell lecture, you need to know that that first D stands for the speaker was discussing. The second one stands for he mentioned. So you need to learn those groups of words, and then just the letter represents it. Okay, there's another class on Monday, a free class, sample class, and next Friday as well. Next week they're doing writing, and David will be taking those classes. I'm just about to go off on holiday. I'm going to run out the door, jump in the car, go on holiday. There were a couple of things I wanted to mention, I think. So there is a tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Melbourne time, which is 3 hours before this class started. There is an Ask Me Anything session, free session. Colin will be answering any questions you have about PTE or about E2 language. Tomorrow there is a small group class. If anyone would like to join a small group class, that's happening tomorrow. Okay. So I think that's about it, guys. Harpreet's asking, ma'am, please provide speaking class because my pronunciation is very low. Okay, so the speaking class will be not next week, the week after, Harpreet. Amy, Amy Pat, if you put your email address into the chat right now, and Kat as well. If you put your email addresses into the chat, I will email you about some of the classes. Okay, thanks, Amy. I've got your email address. And Kat, if you do the same thing. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining me. And I'll see you again week after next. Have a good week. Work hard. Anyone doing the test, very best of luck to you. Take care. Okay, I'm just copying and pasting something here before I go. Okie doke, I'm good. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.